Major problem, 911. This thing's broken. Well, it's actually full mold and it's leaking all over my house. So if you have a similar problem, there's a little unit right here. And they're all the same, pretty much the same. You're gonna throw a cage in and throw the unit and snip and snap, and there you go. So let's get rid of this. I'm gonna show you how to do it. Here's the unit up close, and you can see there's a screw right here holding this unit against that window, and that window is nailed shut. So I gotta have to do some work there. I have to take a nail out of this window. It's an old window. It's nailed shut, nailed here. But and there's this little deal here, so you're gonna have to get rid of that. We're leaking air. It wasn't hooked up right. There's no trim around it. You can see outside. It's gonna need some spray foam and some trim work. It's leaning forwards, molding my wall, which I had to air out and cut holes in the bottom of. And so there you go, do all that. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove this screw with my drill bit, this little deal right here. And it works just fine on that. Okay, I'm gonna unplug it so you don't get shocked. This is lid-based paint, so I'm gonna wear a mask. Window still works. I removed the window weights inside the wall, so it's a little rusty. This doesn't look normal. We're going to remove this. Okay, I've removed the glass and got everything removed. But I'm gonna have to spray foam this gap, put a new 2x4 in right here, and then rest the unit on that flat where it's leaning downwards. You want it to be leaning just a little bit back towards the grass there. And that way your unit is leaking into the yard and not into your house. And you also wanna make sure the leak hole is outside instead of the leak hole being inside, where the water's leaking in behind your wall, which is what the other one was doing. And I had to cut a bunch of sheetrock out down here and fan it out for a few days, and luckily I got to it within an hour, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But that's a pre-warning. So let's see how I frame this in to start with. Tape measure, measure the board, your bottom board, all the way across. Make sure your wood's solid on both sides, left and right. It's 29 inches. Okay, so this board's in there tight and seen. I hammered it in, and I'm going to bring you in close in just a second so you can see how it's angled out. And make sure your window doesn't do that every minute. Okay, I'm going to put a level on this. Okay, so you can see here, we're level. That board is level. It's tight. There's no nails in it. This is hammer tight. Okay, and when you put the level this way, the bubble is completely far to the right, which means, I mean, we are way good on the slope towards the fence there and towards the grass there. Okay? Now what I'm gonna do, so we don't backtrack, I'm gonna drill holes, pre-drill holes in this. Both screws are in now. So this pile over here and all the pieces that come in the box other than the unit is like Saturday night burglary waiting to happen. So I'm going to show you how to get this from not getting stolen and to keep all your items and your kids safe. So come in close. All you're going to need is this little packet. And this is in a smaller unit. In some of the bigger units, you actually have to remove the face and pull the unit out and secure this box to the actual wall and the frame. That's another good idea so that nobody can steal it. You can do that with this one as well, but it's a smaller unit and it's got this little bar here. And I'm going to build the frame and sheetrock it in so nobody can get in or out, and I have insulated. These small screws go right here in the top, and like pretty much every unit comes with this bar on the top, even the bigger ones. And don't go too tight with the drill because it'll strip it out. So there's 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. And it holds this little rail bar here on. And that'll go, my top 2x4 will go across the top here and this will get held so they can't get the unit out. And it'll also be secured all the way up against the unit here as well, and the bottom, and spray foamed. And it's only worth a couple $100 anyway, so should be pretty safe. And here you go. This is level. It's still level after putting in the 2 screws, so check that, and it is. And this board is leaning out towards the grass with a big slope. So let's go ahead and set this unit in there now that I got this little bar on there. You could just plug it in. Got this thing framed in so that nobody can steal this thing, and like I said, you can pull this whole thing out, and if you want to go through all that to put a screw in the side into this 2x4 and a screw in this side into some shims or a 2x4. I have a actual window in there. This metal window is the old window behind the wood window. There's 2 different windows here. Anyway, that's why there's an extra gap, but you could shim this and put a screw in to really secure it. But there's a bar right here that holds the unit, and there's also a bar down here. These little feet, these little metal feet, hold it on this bottom 2x4 so that somebody can't just slide that right out of there. Plus there's other things on the side, and this is a really tight gap. It's gonna have caulking and everything, trim, everything. So yeah, nobody's gonna be able to take that unit. It'll also be very easy to dismantle. If I get a new unit in the future, I can slide this over or get rid of it and get a longer one and raise this one up. It just has a few screws. So the main thing is you want this flush so you can sheetrock it, which is what I'm about to do right now. So you can see my sheetrock will go. It has a left, a right, a top, and a bottom piece. And then down below, there's all this weird stuff right here. Well, we're gonna get rid of that because I have another 2x4 down right here. And that's gonna pass all that over all that. We're gonna come out even with this wall. You won't see any of this, but make sure and you see the window comes and sets on that, so that looks nice already. It just needs paint. And then this side over here, I'm gonna put a piece of wood in or something. And you'll see, I'm gonna have to put a little 2x4 in right here. But anyway, after I get that done, I will go ahead and start sheetrocking this and show you that process. One for underneath and one for right here. I've measured it and I've cut it. And I have other videos on sheetrocking if you're curious. Okay, that's what it looks like when you're prepared. And you have one on the right, left, the top, the bottom. The pieces are cut, they fit, everything fits well. This is at the bottom and slides up underneath those feet. That little foot under there, barely, but it does. And it's down on the bottom, we'll make an easy tape job. And over here, we have some work we gotta do still. So keep that in mind. And you might say, how are you gonna get the insulation in there? Well, I'm gonna spray an insulation from outside actually, and I'll show you how I do that as well at the end of this, after we fix this hole. Now I'm gonna throw in these screws. Okay, nobody's gonna get that out. Plus all this sheetrock ties all these 2x4s together and makes it even more sturdy. And then underneath, I've done the same thing. I'll follow it all the way across right here, all the way across right here, okay? This fills up to a 1-inch gap. It's just all I had. You could use one that fills up to a 3-inch gap, I think. It's a different color. Shake it up for a minute. I've been shaking it up for about a minute now. You put this on there, and I'm just gonna go over this with one can. There's a big gap right here, and I think you kind of get that, what we're doing. And I'm wearing a glove. All I've done is I've started from the bottom. I've got it to spray out at first, and then I started from the bottom and just slowly fill that gap all the way up to the top. And I'm gonna let that expand. Okay, now I'm gonna take the rest of this can and I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna spray the rest of it outside. And I'll show you what that looks like here at the end of this video. It's getting kind of cold, so I had to put on my warm hat. All I've done is pre-drill holes and marked on the trim board here where my studs are, so that when I put this up there, I can go ahead and screw my pre-drilled holes, and I knew right where to drill. And now I've got the screws hand put in, and I'm going to show you how I do this. Super easy, super fast, no dry time. You still got to paint and stuff, but anyway, this is what I'm doing. This ledge right here is decorative, but it's also for my mini blinds. When my mini blinds come down, they're going to rest right on top of that. So that's going to be really nice. And they'll be just you'll see at the end of this video. Anyway, I'm going to paint all this, paint this white, paint everything white, and I'll bring you right back. And I'm going to attach these trim boards with screws, that way it's easy to take out in the future. And I can take them out and put them right back in. Take them out, right back in. Move the boards around, get a bigger unit, get a smaller unit. It doesn't really matter. I can do anything I want, or I can take it all out and go back with my original wood windows and get a central heat and air system in the future. I usually turn it off. I turn it up to like 80 degrees and then before I unplug it, and it'll shut off like that, and then I unplug it after it shuts off. But anyway, this is what it looks like right now with the trim. I got to do some painting obviously, but you can see it's starting to come together. And I got to get a new mini blind. And right now what I'm going to do is scrape this lead-based paint off of this window.
I gotta get all this lead-based paint scratched off these old windows, and I'm gonna show you kind of how that process goes. I'm wearing a mask, but I'm gonna shield it with this and go for the best here, hope for the best. Okay, now I'm going to shop back all this so that I don't get it all over even more. And eventually I'm going to have to dust the walls, which you'll see. So stick around. I'm going to go wash my arms off outside and throw my mask away, get a new mask, dust my clothes off the best I can, and proceed. What it looks like after scraping. You can see it's still in the, looks pretty rough, but it's actually smooth. You got scrapes out here and there. This part looks good. All those chips and flakes are off now. Those ones won't come off. Those ones are all solid. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint right over that with that cheap primer, PVA primer. It's only like $9 at Lowe's. So stay close. Okay, so here's the first coat. I have primed it first coat, and it's gonna need a second coat and some caulking. But this is how it looks after one coat. This is the time to go ahead and tape. So I'm taping around my doorways and everything. I have a video on how to tape in my painting. But there you go. I'm painting the baseboards as well. I've taped the wall and the floor all the way around. And I'm gonna do all that along with this. Okay, so here's the unit outside. And you can see underneath there's a little drain hole right here. This drain hole has to be outside so that when the water is leaking, the condensation, it'll go out inside your yard. This was my problem before. It was draining inside my house and rotting out my house. So there you go, you want that outside, and it is. It's clearing, it's doing a good job, and you can see the spray foam is expanding right here. And I'm gonna fill in this whole gap. That was a fail. Too thick. Bigger than 1 inch. And all the trim, the project is done. I've finished the caulking. I'm about to hang that mini blind. I'm gonna make a video on that if you're interested in that. I'm gonna break that into a separate video though. This window is still functional. You're gonna wanna take a box blade knife and cut down the paint before you try to open the window. Cut down before you try to open it. But this window is functioning, and this is all insulated, caulked, painted 3 times. I'm gonna paint it again actually, because where I put the caulking, I'm gonna paint 1 more coat. And like I said, make a video on this. If this was helpful, go ahead and like it, subscribe to my channel if you like home improvement videos.